So you and I live in the same city where we are breathing this poisonous air, and most people that you'll speak to, they just have lost hope that anything will be done by our lawmakers, and they just feel that it's now final court of appeal. It's up to the Supreme Court to do something about the matter. They pin their hopes only on the court. What do you have to say on this matter?
Well, it's great that people have this kind of faith in the court system. But I think when we deal with issues such as pollution in Delhi, the fact that, everybody's talking about it for a change in the last several years is part of the answer to the problem. Because the real problem arises when people just accept whatever happens in society as a new normal and they don't speak about it, they don't write about it, they don't talk about it. The very fact that everyone is engaged on this issue itself is the first step in finding a solution to this problem.
But it's a very pressing issue, right?
It is, of course.
So, writing about it, reporting is something that everybody has been doing for a long time. It somehow doesn't move people enough.
Now, the point is that there are two different aspects of the matter. First, you have the role of policymakers, namely the government, the expert agencies of the government. And then you have the role of the courts. None can, in that sense, be complete without the other. When courts step into this area, obviously courts cannot take over the core policy-making role, which is for expert agencies to handle. What courts can ensure is to ensure that the processes are being undertaken. Are you applying your mind to this? For instance, we had the graded action plan. Now, that was introduced as a result of the intervention of the court, in the sense that then we lay down processes and systems that if pollution crosses a certain level, these are the steps which you have to take.
Yeah, the GRAP 1, GRAP 2
that's
and all
right.
those. Yeah.
So you institutionalize processes and the response to pollution does not become ad hoc.
But do you think it's time to have more judicial intervention? Otherwise, somehow the legislature and the executive seems to be doing... they don't understand the urgency of the matter, probably. I don't understand.
Well, I would love to say yes, because, I've been a judge all my life, especially after I ceased to be a lawyer for the last 24 years. But having been a judge, I also understand the limits of judicial review.
I get that.
And it's very important for judges to understand the limits of their function. Because what happens very often is that when you step into a problem, particularly a problem as complex as this, which is not a problem relating to one source of pollution, like say one thermal power plant or one polluting industry, those are typically areas which courts can work on very well.
Right.
But you are dealing with a problem which has multi-dimensional issues involved. You have farm fires, you have the number of vehicles in the city, you have new construction, you have changes in cropping patterns, climate change in general as well. So these are issues in that sense which are extraordinarily complex. So courts have to step into the area, move the authorities along and tell them, hey, what are you doing? What are the steps that you are taking to deal with today's problems? What are you envisioning for the next year? What steps do you want to take? So very often the role of judicial review is to push things along as opposed to merely taking decisions on your own. Another problem I think which we need to understand is that when courts take decisions, we are essentially not accountable to the people in a direct sense. Obviously, we are accountable to the Constitution as judges. And pardon me for saying we, I'm no longer a judge, but just, old habits die hard. But so courts are not in that sense either accountable to the electorate or to the people at large. We, as judges, they perform roles of, enforcing constitutional rights. Now, a lot of good work in the environmental area in India has been done by the judiciary. I'll just take you away a little bit from the immediate issue of pollution. So, doctrines such as the polluter pays principle or the principle of sustainable development, the precautionary principle, the principle of intergenerational equity, which means that we hold the environment in trust for future generations. The right to be protected against climate change, which I spoke of in one of my recent judgments on solar power. These are all the result of judicial evolution. And the Supreme Court of India has been at the forefront of global Supreme Courts in leading the march of environmental law. So, at a conceptual level, courts have a wonderful and a significant role to play. When it comes to dealing with individual problems, I have some element of caution which I must express. Because otherwise, what happens is when courts enter into the area, there's a great expectation of people that, well, now the court has entered this area, you have this great power of contempt, and that everything will be normal and everything will be fine. It's not going to happen that way because these problems are extraordinarily complex. You're dealing with intractable problems. You're dealing with the issues of farmers, right? The farm fires, for instance. Now, are courts capable of dealing with the complexity of these modern problems? Which is not to say that courts should not enter into the area. We have to enter into the area.
Click here to watch the full episode.